Welcome back to another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Richard Thompson. Today, I'm joined by Scott Hoskins, business owner, leadership facilitator with leading teams, and a man whose journey from professional golf to building high-performing cultures is nothing short of extraordinary. In this conversation, we explore the real mechanics of leadership, the resilience, vulnerability, and genuine relationships, and agreed behaviours that separate average teams from truly high-performing ones. Whether you lead a business, a team, a family, or simply yourself, Scott's insights will reshape how you think about culture, accountability, and impact. All right, let's get into it. Scott Hoskins, welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. I'm very much looking forward to this because in the recent history, you're now representing leading teams, which is really exciting, and I want to talk to you about that a lot today. And leading teams is, centered around what it takes to be a high-performing team. Where did high performance start with you?
Yeah, we go back to as a young bloke, sport's been a massive passion of mine. And as a young fellow growing up, I wanted to be rich and famous. And sport was something I thought how you could go about that. So, footy, cricket, idolised all of the people you saw on TV. And fairly late took up golf when I was sort of 15 and then turned pro a few years later. So,
which is unusual for golf because you need a fair few more years than a couple.
Some unreasonable for some, I guess. I loved it, did it from sun up to sundown, and passionate about it, committed. High performance from a sporting lens was something I was always into. It was through that journey that I really became a student of that, being the best I could be. So I really was proactive in chasing all that around the globe, really.
Golf for me, I don't play. I will frequent a charity event if I have to, but it intrigues me because it is a game. It's a very popular game, but it's a game against yourself, and it is near impossible to master. Even the best in the world don't win every time, and shoot, not as well as they do normally. What did that sport particularly? Why do you think you were drawn to that?
Yeah, probably not a sexy answer, but I was drawn to that because I saw you could make a lot of money.
But there are other sports that are just as profitable.
Are. Why that? My uncle was a golf pro and he looked to be having a pretty good life. I thought that was...
Did you enjoy the process of you're on for 4 seconds or maybe even 10 seconds when you do the setup, and then you're off. You're offline to the next time you hit the ball, and then you have to. I feel like it's a sport that teaches you. For cricket, if you're a batsman, you do one bad shot, you're out.
Yeah,
that innings is over. You have to come back the next day or the next week. Whereas golf, you can afford to fail a shot, but you've also then got to be able to reset well.
The higher up the ladder of elite performance in golf, the less you're able to have mistakes and then recover from them. Of course, some do and some can. I guess golf for me and continues to be today, as I hear other people really passionate about golf, is that it's a great reflection of one's personality and the way they handle things when you take them out on a golf course.
Okay.
I've said for many years, if you want to learn about someone, just go out and play with them because you'll see how they handle things. You'll see how they behave against certain situations and, bogey the first three and see what behaviour looks like then. And so I've always, I think that's I haven't had experience in other sports, but golf is unique in that way. And that it's the mental challenge that it brings is individual. There's a responsibility that the best in the world embrace. That's the most challenging part about golf. The mechanics of golf, I think you just look at someone's technique. There's so many different ways you can go about that. But the mental challenge and the mental side of that sport will find you out if you're weak in that space. And so that then creates opportunity for you to want to make that better. And I guess for me, it took me further than perhaps some do, and I was willing to make that commitment. But in reflection, I wasn't willing to make the next commitment that others do. It's served me well because it's created a sense of resilience and commitment through that process that now serves me today.
Getting to know you, I've been extremely impressed with your self-awareness and, I guess, growth mindset to be better. As you have grown, how has that path been for you? Were you like the way you are now as in the golf realm? Like, is that, or is that something that's come later in life?
No, I've been like that all of my adult life. It can be a great strength, and it is, and it's a great strength. At times, it can be unproductive, but in general, my pursuit is to get better in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah,
and I guess ultimately, I'm now in an environment where we help leaders and teams get better. So I've really felt like I've found my home. Serves me well today. I still it's actually something I need. Without that, I struggle with purpose, and that's really important to me.
You need to be on the path of being better.
Yeah. I went through journeys through my life where I thought that feeling that I was chasing was attached to money or attached to an outcome, a specific outcome. But I now know that for me, it's actually the feeling that I'm attached to, and the feeling and the pursuit of getting better, regardless of what that is.
The presumption that I have is that Rich and the wealth and the fame didn't come out of golf.
No,
the way that we planned going in.
Yeah.
How did you pivot into business?
Yeah, again, probably was motivated by the money part for beyond golf in the early days as well. I thought that that's what success meant, and that's how I'd link success. And it's when I got to the destination that's when I experienced the feeling I thought I'd get at that point. So the pursuit of a financial outcome lasted well beyond my golfing days. It's not a part of me now because I've reflected and learnt, and I'm now self-aware that that's not the bit. That's not the bit for me.
Would you have done anything different in the past, in the sense of if you knew that the drive was the pursuit of getting better as against making more money?
Yeah,
that seems to be the byproduct of it in any event.
Yeah, listen, I wish I had learned quicker, but I also accept that all of those events led me to where I am now.
Yeah.
So
the butterfly effect.
Yeah, it's sort of like, well, if that doesn't happen, then that doesn't happen. And
sure, but
so,
now you're here, and you're
now
bloody
I'm
thankful.
here, and some things have happened over the journey for me that were painful, and there have been times where I wish they didn't happen, but then it's because of those happening, then other things have happened that have been amazing. So
it's hard, isn't it? And it's hard to, because you can connect the dots to know, you can see that the most difficult times in our lives are the required events to get us to the place we want to be.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to reconcile, particularly when you're in that environment.
Yeah.
In the well.
Yeah.
To go, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, when they're happening, as you said, you wish you didn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
But listen, it just is. And I now really choose to focus on what I'm grateful for now, rather than what some of the things in the past that have been painful or regretful or whatever those things are. So
you're an owner of one of the Sunshine Coast's loved institutions, Junk. And you've got an incredible lineage of business as well behind you, and you've expressed that you are fulfilled by the pursuit of getting better. Why? What's driven you to go into leading teams and to help others, as against just doubling down and helping yourself?
Yeah, great question. I guess it has come about through my failure in that space of leadership. That 6 or 7 years ago, my business partner at the time, we had a large business, as a business culturally and me as a leader, we failed. So it was at that moment that, or through that stage where I did a lot of reflection about what my impact on that was and what role did I play. And I guess I had a decision to make at that point about whether I would accept that perhaps leadership wasn't a pursuit that I wanted to pursue anymore. It wasn't that fun at that time. Having a business that had a lot of people attached to it also wasn't that fun at that time. So my decision was, do I try and master or become a student of that skill around leadership and culture that I didn't know much about? I knew when it wasn't there. It's like you can feel it when it's there and you can feel it's when it's not there. And it was only I was sitting in your reception area waiting to come in here and chat to you, and I asked your receptionist about how's she enjoying her time here and how long you've been here. She said she's been here, I think she said 6 months or a short period of time. And I said, how are you enjoying it? She said, I love it. It like feels like my family. I then asked her, what makes it feel like your family? And she couldn't answer that. That's the bit that I've spent the last 6 or 7 years now understanding. And now I'm, really grateful I get to help people, leaders and teams be high performing and trying to understand that. So, the culture bit is, what is culture? What creates your receptionist to feel like she's part of a family? And those are the questions that I just never had the answer to. We had a poor culture. I was an underperforming leader, but I didn't know I didn't know why, and I didn't know what I should do differently. So, and that's the journey I've been on for the last 6 or 7 years. Martine, leading teams, I've said this to her many times, and she's heard me say this before, but she has changed my life, not just professionally, because I think the way of leadership is not something you do at work. It's a way of which you live. I'm forever grateful for that, but I'm also doing work now that really meaningful, and I'm able to have an impact on others like she was able to have an impact on me.
That's a really beautiful answer. For the small period of time that we've known each other, I am so thankful you have found that for you. From the way your brain is put together and your genuine care, I can only imagine how impactful you will be to all the businesses and people and teams that you will work with. Kim on the front of house, she is an absolute weapon, and we are not the firm without her. And she is incredible. I was tearing up, in fact, when you were saying that, because I feel like she contributes to the culture more than just as much as even more so than anyone. And so
I think that the feeling she has and describes, that doesn't happen by chance. It's intentional. And there's behaviour that must be happening inside of these walls that have created that feeling. And those behaviours are standards that the leaders and the team have modelled, have accepted. This is the way it works around here. And when they're not there, I assume have challenged as well. There must be some things that is happening inside your four walls that have created that feeling, because it doesn't happen by chance. So it's my passion is helping people unpack that about how you create that. Because as a leader, I wanted to create that, years ago, and I didn't know how to.
Sure.
And it's not.
It's very. I imagine it would be a challenge. It would be much more challenging, and a completely set of new skills. And it's probably what you're getting into, of fixing a culture rather than creating it from the start. I think I had a couple of opportunities to buy it elsewhere before starting this, and I wanted the option to have a fresh start. I wanted the option to start the culture, start the team from ground zero, and set frameworks, set foundations, set behaviours that we desperately stand for and will fight for. One thing that was very clear to me is that when we started to build, that nothing is more important than us and our bond behind in the four walls. I will not tolerate, a client. I'll give a client a warning if they're at all rude or disrespectful, then because I appreciate everyone has their bad day. But if they do it again, I'm happy to say, you're not our people.
Yeah.
And importantly as well, internally, like it's to create an environment where give everyone autonomy and responsibility to be part of that culture, to contribute, not just to be the benefactor. It's just as important that you have that responsibility, because then one person, the dictator, can't create a great culture. You will be happy at work because I tell you to. It's everyone's responsibility, and if you then it's a compound effect, because everyone then takes that responsibility with this by the scruff of the neck.
And you touch on a number of points, which is well embedded in our language and the work we do with leaders and teams now.
Hey team, just popping in to say thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the episode, please take a second to like or follow the show and share it with a friend. It's the best way to help us grow and keep bringing you more great content. All right, let's get back into it. The reason what I got, and I am so thankful for you going down this path, because, and I'll set this up so then you can take it away and go down the leading teams path, because I am a big believer in that soft skill, the culture, right? The teamwork and what we do as a group. And that's partly because of my sporting background. That's partly because of what I've seen in corporate during that time. But I'm all, and certainly from the way that I'm built, I want high performance. I want that pursuit of getting better and achieving something that people think is not possible. But when we discussed, I'd not heard of leading teams or the philosophy around it, or Ray or Martine, and I'd not heard of how it was implemented into the AFL system from the beginning, and then you were able to sort of just pull the thread a little bit, and then it all, for me, is the reason. I don't know. You guys have just done such an amazing job at being able to articulate the fundamentals of that culture piece.
Yeah.
And I take read a lot with the Rockefeller Habits and Vern Harnish's work in terms of building a business that's sustainable and a very good business. And one of the 4 pillars is people. So, with saying that, I'll hand it to you to explain what the leading teams piece is, because people and culture of any organization, of any team, family, at home, sporting, whatever it is, it's so integral, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've only recently joined leading teams, but it's the leading teams framework and models have been a big part of my life for 6 or 7 years. I guess I was talking to a group of business owners this morning. We leading teams had our birthday 25 years last week.
Wow.
And it was just great to be a part of that night. Ray, Harry, the founders were there. It was just a real celebration, but there were so many people that have been on the journey with Ray and Harry and leading teams. But, Ray, the origin of leading teams I think is important, because Ray was a trainer in the Air Force, working with the elite pilots. So think Top Gun. And there was the elite pilots came through their training, all had exactly the same training to get to be selected to participate. And there were exercises where there was 2 teams, and their performance was different. And Ray changed the leaders of those teams, and then watched the performance change in the teams again. But they'd all had the same training. They were all the very best of their mechanics. And it was through there that Ray then, from Victoria, had a passion for footy in the AFL, and then I guess leading teams roots were born out of the AFL, and then went into other elite sports. So, Brisbane Lions is one of our clients. Been there. One of my teammates have been working with them for 8 years now. We're really proud of that impact we've had there, and So I guess the basis of what I really wanted as a leader 6 or 7 years ago, which is why leading team resonated with me, is that I really wanted to be part of a culture that was underpinned by empowerment, because as our business had grown, all of the challenges and issues and problems had gotten bigger, and the more we did, the more that grew as well. So it just wasn't sustainable for that. And it was through my work with leading teams as a client that to be a high-performing team, you need high-performing leaders. They're going to have the biggest impact on a culture. And certainly for me, I was one of those leaders. And so I play a role in that. And there's behaviour that I model for everyone to see, whether it's some good, some bad. But I certainly set the tone around that, as did other leaders in those times. So, to be a high-performing team, you need high-performing leaders. High-performing teams need a common purpose. Like, why do you exist? What would it look like if you didn't exist? I mean, these are all questions that never even thought about before. I mean, I knew why I individually existed and I knew what some of my goals, but why does our team exist? So when you start doing that work, that was really valuable, because under pressure, a purpose or a lack of purpose will be really obvious. And then I really learned about two streams of where a team will put their energy. One is in the mechanics. There's the strategic plan, the standard operating procedures. They're all they're the what a team does. There's this whole other area around dynamics that is about how they do it, and that's where that behaviour, that's where that culture piece lives. And underneath that, there really are three key where we work with our clients, and where all the work needed to happen with
dynamics.
me in the dynamics piece.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a chef, right? So I got nothing to add. I can go and talk to someone in the kitchen about how to cook.
Mechanically, you're lacking.
So in the dynamics piece, really three key areas. One is an agreed behavioural framework. So what behaviours do we as a team agree that's how we're going to behave? Whether intentional or not, you've created that here. You just spoke about that. The other key pillar is around strong professional relationships. That being intentional. It's always been easier for me to build relationships with people I like or people I could had something in common with. But it was being intentional about building relationships that were important to our business and important to us as a team. Leadership's not a title, right? Leadership's about behaviour. We find a lot of teams, sometimes the leaders aren't in leadership positions.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes people in leadership positions aren't the leaders.
Leading, yeah.
Agreed behavioural framework, strong professional relationships, and the third piece, which is around the genuine conversation. So when you agree on behaviours and you've got strong relationships, you're in a much better place to have either a challenge conversation about someone's behaviour if they're not living the behaviours that we all agreed about. And there's also equally an opportunity to reward that. So whether it's reward feedback or challenge feedback are really linked to what behaviours we all, as in we, not me as the leader, decided. And that's that empowerment piece. But the genuine conversation bit has been a real growth for me, and because they're still not easy often, because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. There's also at times over the journey you get in the risk about what happens if I give them some feedback and they leave, or I don't want to get in a blue, or
I don't want to upset the apple.
Yeah, exactly. But, just I hear in your language as you're talking, you're really clear about that. So back to your receptionist about her feeling like a family, it's all those things that contribute to that feeling, that create that feeling now. And so when we talk about a story, I've got a young chef who's part owner of the restaurants now, and a few years ago we had a staff member in the kitchen who I thought her behaviour was pretty poor over a long period of time, and she really prioritised her own outcomes all the time in front of the businesses. And I just was sort of sick of that. I was jack of that. And some of our agreed behaviours that we had decided on as a team is that we were going to address things as they happen, and we were going to lead by example. And as I'm talking to Kevin, I was talking about this person in the kitchen, and he said to me, have you had a conversation with her? And I said, oh, man, I'm like, what's the point? Like, she's not going to change. She's been like that for ages, mate. She's never going to change. Let's just get rid of her. And he said to me, okay, you think that's leading by example? And that was a moment that I always reflect on as what I now look at as high performance. And I got up and went and had the conversation, and we had a really genuine conversation on both sides. But the bit I knew that was a moment for me as a leader from an evidence point of view is Kevin felt safe to challenge me as the leader in his late 20s, challenging someone who's his boss, challenging his boss's behaviour, number one. Two, we had a strong enough relationship where he trusted that I would take that in the right way. And three, we agreed on these behaviours, and
you're not living up to
and
them.
I'm not living up to them. And he challenged me on that. So that's high performance, and I've learnt that's high performance. And it's not something I would have done, back in the day. I would have rejected it. I would have shut it down, and I would have done what I see a lot of leaders do now. And when you said things like before about everyone's got a responsibility, we're going to fight for that, all those things, that's empowerment.
Yeah.
And that's how that feeling gets created when I walk in the door and sit in your reception.
It's super important that I think with the agreed behaviours, and after we had that initial chat, I went to the team and said, okay, this behaviour piece is obviously important. Every meeting, every month, we have a quarterly offsite, but every month we have each department meeting, and I'm there knowing this team's incredible, but focusing just on the mechanics, which I think is normal, right? To go, what's the data from last month? What are we going to do this month? Or file opens or whatever that is. And it didn't sit necessarily well with me that I'm not equally critiquing of how that work is done. Because you don't want the company to be a profitable business in a toxic environment. That's not valuable for me. I don't like that at all. Nor do I believe it's sustainable. It is, otherwise implodes, but that's not success for me. Why can't we have it both? Why can't we be driven for great efficiency and great work, as well as in an environment where it's an incredible place to work and everyone's got this responsibility?
I think when you've got great culture and you've got do such a great job in the dynamics piece, it increases performance in the mechanics. They're linked. It's not one or the other.
What would you say to a company or to a business or a team where they go, that's great, Scott, we've got these behaviours now, but like you mentioned a couple of times where it's hard to lead in the tough time. When everything's going great, it's a breeze to lead. It's when what happens if the mechanics drop but the behaviours stay the same? Behaviours are good. And that's, I guess, to the point of Chris Fagan at the Lions when he's implemented this with leading teams. And for the first couple of years, they aren't improving dramatically. You have to really dig deep into the data to say, mechanically we're doing better.
Yeah. I think there is evidence in amongst high-performing teams in that situation you're talking about, because you might have people in your team that are able, but they're not willing. And we work with teams to unpack, in some cases, why they're not willing. And that's that genuine conversation bit. So, I reckon most teams probably have people that are willing and not able, and they've got some people who are able but not willing. And it's the unwilling piece that needs a genuine conversation, because often you'll find when the conversation happens, there's reasons for that. And it's about trying to shift people out of those quadrants into more productive quadrants. So, of course, there is a character and competence bit. There's the competence bit that you need to be a lawyer and you need to understand the law and you need to be able to do those bits. There's a character bit too, where you've got to have people that'll put the team first and a lot of those other things. So I think the mechanics bit critical. I reckon it's during the recruitment phase that where equal focus has got to be in both areas, and trying to create situations where you can see that natural behaviour. You know, when I joined leading teams, it's quite a process, as you can imagine. And there's two parts to what we do. There's our models and our, let's call them our mechanics, and then there's the facilitation bit that I'd never done before. But through the process that leading teams have created is trying to find how people react to feedback. How well do they build relationships? Are they having genuine conversation? So they're looking to really pressure test some of these behaviour things through the interview process. So the mechanics in, say, a restaurant, for example, you can have chefs that have got amazing skills around cooking, but it's hard to cook for 150 people at once on your own. So I think as time goes on and people, especially in hospitality, probably not as plentiful as they were in the past, that the culture bit now and is certainly from my point of view is the priority, because we can train a lot of the other stuff.
What's the pathway to allowing a safe environment for those genuine conversations, do you think?
Good question. I reckon I had the language I used to use was, Martine used to say early days, do you get much feedback? And the answer was no. I used to say, but I ask. I'm asking all the time, but they don't want to give it. Well, there's a reason they don't want to give it. Do they feel safe to give it? How have you reacted in the past when you've got feedback? So, it was all they were big moments for me, because when I work with leaders now, when a leader doesn't get feedback and wants it, now some leaders don't want feedback, right? And that's okay. They're not a good fit for us. We don't work with those teams, and that's okay. One is a leader seeking feedback. Do they want to get better, or do they think they've reached their performance level? If they want to get better and they're not getting it, then there'll be a reason why they're not getting it. Almost always it's because people don't feel safe to give it. So we work with, I've spent many years now, and now I'm able to help leaders and teams create environments where people are more willing to give feedback. A first-year player, the Brisbane Lions, gives feedback to the leadership group in the pre-season. That's genuine. I mean, can you imagine that?
Yeah. Is that starting from small though? Because
of course,
my anecdotal experience both in life and in business is that you're wanting to set a subconscious framework to be able to have that blueprint as to how you and I would have a genuine or a difficult conversation. So if there was something, let's say at a scale of 10, and 10's a massive problem, a massive blue, and if there is a 1, I will start, and potentially the 10 is avoided by nipping it at the butt. But, for us to keep working with our relationship and pressing on the 1s and 2s, so we've got this, okay, I know how to deal with Scott. I can set a safe environment to have this conversation where I can give him feedback or he can give me feedback, and we feel good about it. That surely allows us to have a better place to talk about a 5 or 6 problem, or even a 10 problem. Whereas in my experience, if you have swept everything under the carpet and not lent in, because a 2 is probably not something we need to have a genuine conversation about. Yeah. We could just ignore it. It's not a big deal. The way you put the bins out, the way you leave your cups in the sink at work for someone else to deal with. Yeah. Like, I don't necessarily want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really want to create friction because I already know you're under the pump or otherwise. But to lean into that and go, actually, that's a great opportunity for us to bond, to get this framework. So when that problem or that conversation needs to happen on a 5 or a 6, we've got history to know that we can manage anything. Is that how you look at it, or is it?
There's a thing around induction there. So we talk about formal induction and informal induction. The formal induction is the bit, you know, here's your contract and this is your key to the office and this is, you know, that's the formal stuff. Yeah, it happens in a lot of places. But the impact of the informal induction is huge. And when I reflect on this in the restaurant space, there's a huge amount of learning, but it's the informal induction about what people observed when they turn up on day 1 and on day 7 and on day 30. What behaviour do they observe from others? What behaviour particularly do they observe from the leader? And that is part of their informal induction.
Yeah, okay.
That's the behaviour that they observe. It's the behaviour leaders model. And that then, for that new person, that becomes the behaviour that's accepted around here.
Yeah.
So when I reflect in the past with the restaurants, it's no wonder we had a lot of this behaviour because myself and the other leaders in the business were there was a big gap between what we said we were going to do and what we actually did. There's a big gap. And to me, that's high performance today. Teams that are at the clear high performers, the gap is much smaller between what they say and what they do.
What happens if you've got someone in your team, and I think about it in football terms more than business, but if you have an exceptional player, and football's probably different because it's 18 on the park and reserves and everything, but if you have a key player, pin-up boy, you know, pin-up kid who's just MVP sort of material, and mechanically that person, one person of all the team, is exceptional, and maybe even they carry the team and not the leader. I'm sure there are teams out there that it's like the rules don't apply to him. The behavior set don't apply to him because he's so good at what he does. How do you play with that in leading teams when you got a person who feels entitled that, and it's probably more common that it's, as you said, as a leader, it's do as we say, not as we do. But if you've got a team player who's exceptionally mechanically, but the soft skill, the behavior traits aren't aligned.
Yeah, I mean the first thing we do with teams, and that's not uncommon, right? And I don't think it's a sport thing. It's obviously highly visible in a sport, more visible in a business or a team, in a corporate team. But I think that's fairly common.
Oh, that's just Sharon.
Yeah, of course. That's just Johnny because he's a real estate agent. He writes $4 million a year
exactly,
in GCI.
Right,
like
perfect,
awesome.
Perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, if
he don't talk to him. You know,
if he pays the bills, right? That's why the lights come on.
Yeah, because he's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
But so don't worry what he says to you, or he snaps at you, or he disrespects you.
That is the point of which leadership starts. And the leader, sometimes it's a business owner, sometimes it's the coach, or sometimes it's a person of influence, gets to decide. Gets to decide whether we're going to give that high performer as a group some feedback about their performance in the dynamic space and what impact they're having. We'll give them some feedback. Or the leader that says, I can't afford for them to go, and they don't get feedback. And consequently, everybody learns that the rules are different over there than they are for me.
Or that the left side, the mechanics, is more important
100%
than the dynamics. And you're trying to then say to the team, the dynamics, the behaviours, how we treat each other is important, but not if you're right.
We just don't prioritise that at that moment.
Yeah.
We'd prioritise the financial element, or we
100%.
prioritise the kicks, marks, and handballs, whatever that is. At that moment,
it breaks down, right?
The leadership gets a choice. The leader and the leader, or the people in that business, particularly the people of influence, get to make a decision. That decision and the consequence of that communicates to everyone else in the team. So the consequences to that. So the leader just needs to accept whatever those consequences are. Chris Fagan doesn't make those decisions. They prioritise culture. They prioritise culture around culture and behaviour around every element, not just of the football department, but the football club. So when you look at other teams, they don't prioritise that like Brisbane have.
They're more about kicks, marks, and handballs.
Of course, and the draft was on last night.
Mm.
So some clubs prioritise talent. Some clubs prioritise all the key markers that were at the draft combine of last month. Other clubs take that into account, but also take into account where they've come from, their family upbringing, some of the values they have, and looking for evidence around that behaviour bit. So you've just got to look at the past 8 years at the Brisbane Lions, and you've just got to look at some of the players they've brought into that environment. It's really obvious to me. You look at Josh Dunkley.
I was going to say
just
Dunkley.
A great example.
Yep.
Great, good player too.
Yep.
But I reckon if he wasn't a fit on the dynamic side, I don't think he's there.
So the assumption there for the audience that don't know the story, Lions were on cellar dwellers. They're on the bottom of the table. Chris Fagan comes in, and it takes some time.
8 years.
Well, yes, but before even the hockey stick was going up, right?
4 years before there was real evidence of any change.
Yeah,
there.
and that's I guess and then the hockey stick
external change.
Correct.
There was evidence internal.
They knew,
but
for the public to see that they were making finals and winning games, and so then Lions go on to the last 3 years make the grand final, the last 2 years win, and effectively write this sort of potential, this huge dynasty, and nothing's really changing in the club either, which is incredible for the season ahead. But I guess the underlying position that you guys would hold, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that a team at that point in time who's on the bottom of the ladder could very well lean into the mechanics and say, we just need better players. We just need poster kids who will kick, mark, and handball better than the rest, irrespective of how they deal with each other, how they deal with and they may have won more games in that first 4 years than they had. But the assumption is they're not winning premierships because they don't have the dynamic side to be able to bond with each other during that whole period of time. That's the position?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look, if you're a footy fan, we're talking about footy, but I think you don't have to look far to look at which clubs prioritise the mechanics and which clubs prioritise less about the dynamic part. So to us, it's obvious.
But it's also a bit, Scott, isn't it, that there may be historic team sports businesses and lots of businesses, I'm sure, that are toxic as shit and perform and profitable and perform well. But what are we trying to achieve here?
Well, you talk about profit. So if that's the outcome, if that's the purpose of the team, is to generate a profit, if that's the only purpose, just be clear about that.
Yeah, but in the same way as that, like a football club would be a premiership.
Yeah.
But what's the point of that being the goal at the expense of all else? What's the point of having any business that turns any profit if it's a horrific place to work or it's not enjoyable, that process of getting better, which ultimately fuels you personally? If you're not on that pathway and creating an environment that allows that to occur, but you ultimately get what you want, what's the value? There's no value there.
That seems strange to you and foreign to you when you say it, but for some people, it's not foreign to them. In some people's eyes, the purpose of being in business or doing certain things is to make money. And how they get there is less important to them. I've known you long enough to know that that's like, why would you do it? But there's plenty of people that do. And that's okay. It's okay. But, we just believe that the journey to high performance is through empowerment and through strong relationships, agreed behaviours, and with genuine conversation. Not everyone's up for that. There's leaders that don't want feedback, and that's fine. That's fine.
The team will grow, and football's probably different. But for us, I'm now engaging you as our business coach. The way that we've gone about our business and the way that we've done things, we're very fortunate that the community has embraced us and clients come, and we have to hire well and strategically to make sure the right people come in, the astronauts as we call them, to be able to service that work at the same level as we have done in the past. And that person obviously has to be the right person to be the astronaut to fit into the culture that we build. As we grow to match that need from the community, we will increase the headcount, which puts on more pressure or makes it more difficult to keep that culture, but something that I'm looking forward to that challenge. How do you build that relationship with the next person that comes in as you are building a team?
Well, firstly, you've got to be intentional about it. Relationships, building strong relationships, professional is intentional, and it needs to be prioritised over the legal work or over the kitchen operation or over the kicks, marks and handballs. So for many years, we would walk in and we would see someone sitting down reviewing last night or having a coffee or having a beer after work. Well, that was slacker work. Like, are you on shift? Like, your shift? Like, wait, have you checked out? I'm not paying you to sit down and do that.
Yeah.
I have a completely different view about that. So it's got to be intentional and it's got to be prioritised. And when you prioritise it and value it, you then model the behaviour you want from others, and they start to look at that. The informal induction piece is that this business values relationships, and this business prioritises that. This law firm isn't just about writing fees. So, sure, as your team grows, there will be more people, but it doesn't necessarily have to be more difficult. In fact, I think my belief is that whilst you've got a weight of numbers about this is how it works here, it actually makes your job less, because now the team are empowered to fight for those behaviours that you're talking about. Now the team are communicating to someone when they just join the team about, well, it's different here. We prioritise relationships. It's like a family here. That's how we behave around here. And it's not just about working 20 hours a day writing fees. And it's not just about the money. So is it difficult at times? Of course. Not everyone's going to want to be that. They might say it, but when they get here and they're held accountable for some of their behaviour through their teammates, not you, some people, it's like, oh, mate, I don't want to be here for that. Possibility is that as you continue to grow, that it becomes easier for you. You as the leader, not easy is probably not the right word, but the culture and the people manage their own culture. It's their culture.
Yeah, correct. It's
a bit like a footy team. It's a player-led culture. I mean, when Fags, it's well documented, but when Fags came in 8 years ago, he went and met every one of the players on the list. Previous coach never did that.
Right.
And, you just look at it today and you look at some of the high-performing teams, we certainly believe that they're people-led, player-led. It's that empowerment piece again, because when we had all these hospitality venues, there might be one lot of behaviour when I'm there, but when I'm not there, what's the behaviour? And it was obviously it can't be everywhere. You're only one person. You've only got so much time in the day. So how does everyone fight for it? And when everyone's fighting for it, the growth path is much less tumultuous as what a business that doesn't have those foundations.
And I think that's where the reward is, isn't it? Where you are fighting for it, and if someone deviates from that, to give everyone the responsibility to put their hand up and say, hey, that's not in line with, to not just condone that behaviour and say that's just Sharon, but to go, hey, that's not, can we have a conversation, because that's not in line with our behaviour traits.
That's not what we're about. We don't have values in the reception and they just sit on the wall and they just sit there. We bring ours to life.
Yeah.
We live them every day and we hold people accountable to that. These are the behaviours that we all agreed. No, they don't change all the time. The leading team's trademark's been around for 18, long time. When I join leading teams, it's not a question for me, do I agree with them? This is how it works here.
Yeah.
You've got to look for ways to collaborate. You've got to show genuine care. You've got to live our model. You've got to take responsibility. These are things that when I decided to join, I signed up for.
Yeah.
They weren't optional.
Yeah.
And they're the things that as you grow, the leaders we'll have decisions to make on a regular basis of whether they accept that or they don't. And, there can be, as teams grow, there can be some slippage, and that's natural. It's being aware of the slippage and go, oh, hang on a minute, and leaving leaving cups and dishes out after lunch and all that. That might seem minor, but what does that say? What do people observe when they see that being okay? Often that can make up a bigger conversation. It's not actually about the cup. And these are all things
creates the framework or creates the blueprint of how we deal with more difficult conversations.
I reckon the biggest challenge for a team growing in size is their willingness to fight for the things that you're talking about.
I love that, Scott.
Yeah. If the willingness wanes as the team grows, it will be difficult for sure. But if the bits that you've fought for in the past can you continue to fight for, and there's more people fighting for them,
you're an army.
Yeah, you're away. You're away.
I love it. And I'm very much looking forward to working more closely with you and the team as we grow. But one thing, the thing that really hit home to me was when you introduced me to it. And then I reckon that night or that Friday night, the Lions were playing, and one of their mid-season, one of their players went down with a season-ending injury, knowing that they're going for back-to-back premierships. So I knew that he wouldn't be a part of that for the rest of the year. And I think Cam Rayner was on the interview at the end of the game, and they asked him who's going to replace. He said something of the likes of, "I'm not sure. One of our trademark behaviours, which is what he referenced, one of our trademarks is genuine care for others. So we'll get around him.
Yeah,
that's our first port of call. Before we think about next week or the end of the year or whatever, we'll get around him and his family, make sure he's okay.
Yeah,
and then we'll deal with it after that." And it's just that was so powerful because it was like it's the word genuine.
Yeah,
it's not fake. It's not, well, you're right. All right, how the hell are we going to win these games without this guy? It's no, we really care about him.
Yeah, and that's a trademark alive,
100%.
And so it's not something that sits on the wall or something you get in your induction pack. You've got to live it.
And he wasn't, and it didn't come across that he was using that opportunity in front of camera to flex on the internal culture. That was just vernacular. That was just the way that he spoke. And it was so natural. And then he was fighting for that inadvertently, unconsciously.
Imagine if you're a first-year player
100%.
Sitting at home on the couch or at the ground or whatever.
Yeah, or in the academy.
And saw that.
100%.
What does that tell you? Imagine if you're one of those draftees last night, a young fella who got drafted last night to Brisbane. Imagine what he's observed the last few years. When another club starts talking to him about the possibility, I know there's academy stuff, but coming to play there, Yeah. So, I think a lot of people can drift in, I've got to pay more in a business sense, but it's a great example of Brisbane, the culture there has rewarded and what the leaders model. And Fletch, my teammate, he's just done a cracking job there, and he's made a real impact, and we're really proud of him and the impact he's made there.
And even Chris Fagan, as he went through the finals, like they had probably a cleaner run than the last year, but certainly a harder draft going into the finals, and then a harder final season. But every day, every lead up to every game, he was like, "Oh, look, it's effectively that's a big game, but we'll play the way that we want to play and conduct ourselves the way we want to conduct. And if we win, great. If we lose, that's okay." It wasn't the be all and end all.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is like that's leadership from the top.
Keep an eye for the Parramatta Eels. So,
because that's the thing that I talked to you about. It doesn't seem like it has infiltrated into the NRL as it has to the AFL.
Yeah, I mean, one of my other teammates, Kurt, he started working with the Parramatta Eels midway through last year, and he's having an impact there already.
Wow.
Look at the back half of last year; they had a strong finish. So, we're looking to them, and we're looking for them to have a big year. And I guess we talk about sport because it's easy to see.
Yes, it's public.
Yeah,
it's binary.
Yeah, exactly.
It's you either win or you lose on the mechanics side.
Yeah.
Whereas in business, how do you don't know?
Yeah, it's not on the newspaper. Correct. It's on the front page of the paper. But footy, AFL's my gig. I love sport generally, but keep an eye out for the Eels.
All right, Scott. Thank you so much for your time coming in. It's so obvious to me how passionate you are about the topic. It comes out of you so naturally and with great vigor. So as I said, I'm looking forward to personally working closely with you more. And for anyone who's building a team or have a team or needs help with that, we'll put your notes on your details.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thank you.
Before you go, 5 questions, quick fire.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
Having a meaningful, positive impact on others.
What does happiness mean to you?
Doing stuff I like with people I like and trying to do more of that.
I love that. What is a normal morning routine for you?
I'm an early riser, like 5:30. If I'm local, I like to have coffee with my dad who's aging. So I'm prioritising that. He won't be here forever, as we all will be. And then really try and prepare for my day. I should be doing more exercise than I am, but it's. I've got 2 dogs that my wife and I, Julie, we take out most days. So yeah,
and get into the work.
Yeah.
If you could have one piece of advice to your younger self, you could put it on a billboard. What would it be?
Yeah, good question. I reckon drop the 10-year plan, or the plan.
I love it.
Because be more present and look at success in a much smaller time frame. Because when you get to the destination, there's nothing there that you think's going to be there. It's about the journey.
Love it. And then finally, a guest that you think would be a good person to have on the show.
One of my closest mates, Michael Caine, came into my world when it was really tough for me 6 or 7 years ago, and he's had such an impact on me as a person and a leader. So, mate, he's a ripper. He's got a business called DevCon, which is a really successful construction company on the coast. So, mate, he's doesn't like to put himself out in the limelight. Humble man, but he's a great leader that inspires me regularly.
Wonderful. Scotty Hoskins, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
That was another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. Next time you're leading your team, turn to the person next to you and tell them all about the show. It really means a lot. Huge thanks to Scott for joining us, sharing such powerful, grounded insight into leadership, behaviour, and building cultures that actually perform. If Scott's perspective made you rethink the way you show up for your team or yourself, take a second to subscribe, leave a comment, or share this episode with someone who would value it. Until next time, peace.